The guests didn't know they were paying. Am I the a-hole for worrying my friend's wedding reception was about to become a disaster? My friend planned a very small wedding ceremony, followed by dinner for around 30 people at a popular waterfront seafood restaurant. Here's the problem. The dinner guests had no idea it was actually supposed to be a wedding reception. And somehow, that wasn't even the biggest issue. Instead of reserving the restaurant's private event room, she made 4 separate dinner reservations under 4 different names. Her entire plan was to have everyone show up, then simply push all the tables together into one giant group. This was on a Saturday evening at one of the busiest restaurants in the city. I had a really bad feeling this wasn't going to work. I kept imagining everyone arriving only to discover the tables were scattered throughout the restaurant with no way to combine them. I asked what the likely outcome would be and if there was anything she could do to avoid a disaster. I strongly suggested she call the restaurant ahead of time, but she didn't seem interested. There was another detail that made this even worse. The guests were expected to pay for their own meals. As far as I knew, most of them didn't even realize that. The invitation I received just said, "Join us to celebrate friend and fiancé at the restaurant." It never mentioned a wedding reception. It never mentioned separate checks. It definitely didn't mention the 4 reservation plan. People online were not impressed. Commenter: "That's extremely bad behavior." I honestly couldn't disagree. Another commenter explained that there was almost no chance all 4 reservations would be seated near each other. They pointed out that a busy restaurant doesn't keep large party space available unless it's booked ahead of time. They guessed my friend either couldn't afford the private room or waited too long to reserve it. I agreed affordability was probably the reason, but I also felt that wasn't an excuse. If you can't afford a certain type of celebration, then plan something within your budget that doesn't create problems for everyone else. Another commenter predicted the manager would spend the evening trying to keep everyone happy while the restaurant staff dealt with the chaos behind the scenes. They also worried the servers wouldn't receive tips that reflected all the extra work. I replied that I'd make sure to leave a generous tip for my own table. Someone else guessed the dinner would simply become 4 separate tables with people walking around congratulating the couple instead of one actual reception. Then they asked the obvious question, "Who's paying?" I answered, "The guests." That response surprised a lot of people. Someone else asked if the guests even knew they were expected to cover their own meals. Honestly, I wasn't sure they did. Everything about the invitation was incredibly vague. At that point, I fully expected this dinner to become a complete mess. Make sure you follow for more videos posted daily. Update: 3 days later. Surprisingly, it wasn't nearly as bad as I expected. After reading everyone's reactions, I decided to have one more gentle conversation with my friend. She wasn't very receptive at first, but eventually, something clicked. On the day of the dinner, she finally gave the restaurant manager a heads up about the situation. That one decision probably saved the entire evening. Several guests didn't show up, which honestly wasn't surprising given everything that had happened beforehand. Instead of 30 people, there were only about 20. The restaurant was able to seat everyone together at one long table. The manager handled everything professionally, even when my friend seemed surprised to learn the restaurant couldn't provide completely separate itemized checks for every guest. In the end, the staff made the entire evening feel smooth and organized. I left feeling incredibly grateful for how accommodating they were. They turned what could have been a complete disaster into a successful dinner. I'll definitely be leaving the restaurant a glowing review because they truly earned it. So tell me, am I the a-hole?